Another edition of the Sawdust City Happy Hour tastings. As always, a joy to be joined by Sam Corbeil, the brewmaster and co-founder of Sawdust City Brewing. And today, Sam, I've taken us outdoors. You've been outdoors a couple of times. You're indoors today. I have decided to go outside because it's finally time to enjoy some summery drinks as we have hit June. We have restrictions that are about to start getting lifted. I got my Sawdust City lid on right there for people that want to check that out. My Tie Cats, even though it's an old one because it's an Adidas and they're with New Era now, but whatever. Tie Cats cut off. There's a lot of people that are starting to enjoy some of the warmer weather. And today, I think we have a perfect drink to kick off some of the warmth and a little bit of the summer season. And the name alone tells people why it is a perfect drink to go with the summer warmth. Patio Nights. Patio Nights right there. Explain to people where Patio Nights came from and what we are looking at.
Patio Nights, it actually started out, I had been approached by a gentleman that worked for a tea company, and he had given me a couple samples, and one of them was a proprietary sangria hibiscus tea they put together. And I tried it and I really liked it, and I just needed a beer to put it in. And over the last couple of years, we've tried it in a couple of different blends and mixes. And then this year, we finally, after this, now it's been the third year, we kind of came up with the base beer that this will become moving forward, and we're really happy with it. We tried a couple different iterations, but each one of them had this really juicy, spicy sangria tea behind it that, evokes that lovely fruity wine character along with some juicy hops and just refreshing flavor. And it's this beautiful purple color that I absolutely love. And I think that, it's exactly the perfect beer for either patio nights or patio days.
Yeah.
And it looks like you have that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually been out on the back deck for most of the afternoon here as we're taping this on Saturday afternoon here on June 5th. And I look at the can, the side of it, and immediately it takes me back to my fiance is Portuguese in descent, and we love sangria. We love enjoying a red sangria. And as soon as I saw the picture on the side of this, the name, and then you actually look at the description, it says, this beer pours a beautiful reddish purple you can't help but admire in your glass. Aromas of juicy fruits leap out with a distinct sangria vibe and just a hint of hops, both spicy and juicy. This summer drink is perfect for the late nights on the patio with friends. And I think there's an argument to be made as we crack these bad boys open. I think there's an argument to be made that there's not a lot better than the summer nights, whether it be Friday, Saturday, whatever, with friends that end up going a little bit later than you probably want. But the summer heat allows it because we're so used to what feels like now 9 months of the year. Just, you shut it down at whatever time because you got to go home or the snow's coming in or it's cold weather or you can't be outside. But this is a perfect drink for, like you're saying, whether it's when we get back to being able to have house parties or if it's people that are hanging out in the saloon there in Gravenhurst and otherwise, being able to just like, I'll stick around for another one because this is the type of drink that invites that kind of more social setting, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's, what we picture too. The year that we launched it was the year that we launched our patio, and we try to coincide the two together.
Nice.
So it's been something we've been on as a company too. Like our patio is a big draw for us in the summertime, and we wanted something that, we could hang our hats on. Look at the color. It's beautiful, right?
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
And when you smell it, you get a little bit of hops, but you get that spiciness. There's some cinnamon in there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I was interested in this because, again, I passed it to my fiance and I said, listen, you're going to absolutely love this. And she read the side of the can and she said, I don't know if I can do spice because she's not crazy about the spicy Australian red wines or even some of the spicy notes that come in different sangrias. And I said, no, like, give it a shot. And she had a little sip of it. And she was like, you know what? The spice is not in your face. Like it's not overwhelming. It's not on your tongue. It's not destroying. It doesn't lead the taste, but it's that little background hint that you get with everything else that you've put in there. We've talked about layering kind of flavors and different notes previously, but I was intrigued by the way that you mentioned spicy on the can. You mentioned spicy in the description here as we're talking, and the ability to put that in and have it be smooth and not overwhelming, but still present. Like the balance of that is amazing to me.
Well, last year it was actually, we put a little bit, I feel last year was a little bit heavy on the sangria mix. So we actually took it back a little bit this year because the first year was a little light, second year was a little heavy. This year was just right, kind of like Goldilocks there. It took us a couple kicks of the can, but we got it. And that's why we do these things every once, more than once, because we need to perfect it and get it right. And I think this one's got that perfect blend. And you still get the hops, but they're not overwhelming. You get the spice; it's not overwhelming. It's fruity. It's really, I find it really juicy.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny as you say that, even being able to take the first couple of sips, because I had never tried this one before, but having the first couple of sips, you actually feel your tongue having that juicy reaction, right? Where it's almost like it's salivating at the taste of it, because you do get on the front end, for me personally, and everybody's experience is different, but I do get a little bit of the hoppiness off the front, like you're saying, and it's got some of that kind of hop forward characteristic, and then you end up getting into a little bit of the spice, and at the back end, it's that fruit aroma that ends up carrying kind of throughout the whole thing. But it's present, but it's amazing to see it kind of pieced together all in one.
When we put this one together, like the base beer, we sort of used a cross between Golden Beach and Narnia as sort of the base. The first year, actually, Narnia was one of the bases, but I found it a little bit, because Narnia is more of a New England style, so we didn't want it to be thick, we needed to be light, and we didn't want it to be dry hop, so we sort of took those two and made the base beer and dialed back the hops a bit, and didn't dry hop it because we knew the juiciness was going to come from the sangria tea, and it worked out wonderfully. In the past, there was some dry hops in it, so this year there wasn't, and I think it's really beneficial, because it lets everything come. There's a lot going on instead of just being one-dimensional or heavy-handed. I find it's like you said, it's super layered. Like I've only had a couple of them this year, and I find myself liking them more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it totally fits with the warm weather. It's crazy smooth as well, because you do get some of those hops, but it's not like it's some super high IBU IPA that's bitter on the tongue and it kicks you in the face a little bit. It's really super smooth. I want to ask you about working with tea as well, because on the side of the can, as you say, you were working with that sangria hibiscus tea, and you were trying to find the right kind of way to be able to access that as an interesting ingredient to use in the formula of putting these together and brewing of it. When you are working with tea, what are the challenges? What are the pluses? What are the negatives? And how does that go for you in terms of mixing it in different than other things that you work with in brewing?
Well, tea is like, again, I was very lucky to work at a company that used tea in one of their big beers. When I was at Mill Street, we made the lemon juice. It was a lemon tea beer. Man, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of it. But anyways, it was a huge beer.
It's been too long, Sam. It's been too long.
It has been 10 years. It's actually been a decade since we did it. I think it was actually just called lemon tea. But we used, there was a lot of bergamot and some other, things that are fine in tea. And
bergamot underrated, by the way. Before you keep going on, I just want to say bergamot underrated as an essential oil, it's just, everybody thinks that citrus is orange, lemon, lime, because that's a lot of what people get from the grocery store. But before you go on, I just want to say bergamot I love it. It's great in so many different things.
Yeah, and when you have it in the tea, I think it's an essential part of that tea. And one of the things, though, if you oversteep or if you put too much, you end up getting some astringency, kind of can get tannic, and you want to avoid that. So a lot of it, along with being a chocolatier, my wife also was a tea sommelier, and I talked to her a lot about the right way to make tea and what you're supposed to do and the temperatures you're supposed to use. So a lot of that comes into play. And we do, not necessarily just with tea, but we do a lot of steeping as a way to get flavors or other things into the beer. So we've had a lot of practice with this. And, again, this year I think even next year we'll do it even a little bit different than this year. We came across a little issue earlier on that I now know how we can fix it next year. And hopefully next year will be the first year it gets a little bit more of an expanded release.
Nice.
Now that we've sort of dialed it in, we're hoping to do a little bit bigger release next year. And again, it's tough this year to do anything larger than an in-house release with COVID. But next year, when things are hopefully back to normal, we can do a little bit more of an expanded release. And we should have had it, pretty much down by then. And the process and just the amounts. It's just trial and error at the beginning, but then you focus and get the parts that you need.
Yeah, again, absolutely. It's delicious. It is Patio Nights from Sawdust City Brewing Company there. I had a listener question you led me right into, Sam. that I got earlier this week that came in from Doug Collins, and he said on Twitter to us when I said, "Hey, I'm going to be talking about Patio Nights, and it's a little bit of a limited release." And he said, "Why are things limited releases? Because there's some beers that you put out as a brewery that people absolutely love, and I think a lot of people assume that a limited release has to do almost exclusively with the idea that you are getting it because they don't have enough of it around, or because they want to limit the supply and raise the demand. But what is the reasoning for limited releases? Because there's all sorts of limited releases that come out, especially in the summertime, that people fall in love with, and they think, well, I would drink this year round if I could, but it's not available as always year round.
Well, the thing is, the reality is we love to make everything year round because it would make things a lot easier. But it's a delicate balance. Like, not all beers can go to the LCBO. An LCBO release takes between 12 and 16 months to put together.
Right.
So you have to look into the future and figure it out. So it's not simple. And then you have to figure out, what is the demand of said beer? And you have to figure out what's your sell through, what's the velocity sell through of this beer, because you also don't want it sitting around. Yeah. And a lot of times people get really excited about something at the beginning and they buy it really fast, but you can almost track it and it goes like this. So at the beginning, we used to make too much of one beer for a release. So over the last 7 years, we sort of, again, dialed in the amount that we know that we can sell through and the amount of time that we've allotted to that beer.
Right.
Because there are other beers that we want to do. Like, it doesn't sound as, as romantic or as artistic as it, we would like to portray, but there has to be some sort of business behind this, because this is a product that we put money into. It takes an amount of marketing, it takes an amount of selling, and it takes an amount of time for us to brew it. So all of those things, we have to make sure we can sell it fast enough, people are excited about it, and then next year we've drummed up enough excitement for them to come back next year.
Interesting.
And one of the ones, when we do find beer that does speak a little bit more, catches on with the crowd, and we go, okay, maybe next year that'll be something that we can expand, do a little bit larger release. But it's not something, it certainly doesn't happen all the time, and we have to be smart with that. We weren't at the beginning, and sometimes it bit us in the butt. So, unfortunately, it is a business, and we have to sort of treat each release like that.
How much? Yeah, absolutely. And I got to follow up on that as well, where sometimes the limited releases come from batches of different beers that have been created where there's not a lot of that original. You mentioned using Narnia as kind of the base of a little bit of this stuff. How much does that play into being a limited release, where you're like, we've got a certain amount of a base or a certain amount of tea kicking around for something else, or a certain amount of lime that's kicking around, or bergamot like we talked about, and well, let's try to do something with all of that until it's gone.
Well, that does come up too. Like, again, you sort of guess at how much one ingredient you have, and then you like, oh, I ordered too much of that. What are we going to do with it? Sometimes we sell it to other places, or we trade with other breweries or stuff. But then a lot of times it does spark inspiration for a new idea for a new beer. Like this year's Happy Sauce, we had bought a certain amount of raspberry. We thought that for Viva Puff, we ended up not making an extra batch of it, so we ended up having this extra. We're like, well, what can we do? And we talked about making a frambozen. So, okay, well, we have the Belgian yeast, let's do it. So we did that, and because we had the ingredients there, even though we are a business and I said it's not as artistic. Sometimes it is artistic, and
right.
It's just that inspiration hits, and it's me convincing the business people that this is what we should do.
Yeah, I'm sure that plays into it as well, as trying to make sure that the sales can actually come with it. Because I'm sure you have a bunch of ideas that you'd love to be able to explore and try and cultivate into all sorts of different things. And you go to them and they're like, well, can we sell it? And you're like, well, I think so, because I the game better than anybody. I mean, you've studied this stuff for a large chunk of your life. That's got to be a funny experience for you.
It is. And like, last week we did No Way of Knowing, and a saison that I absolutely love. And I love the idea of saisons, and people always talk about, I wish we had more saisons. Here's the truth. Nobody buys saisons.
Really?
They say they want. No one ever buys. It's just, so you have to be very balanced about how much. Like my one of the goals I had at Sawdust City was to make Saison every season. And the first 2 years of existence, we did that. So we had a spring, fall, winter, and summer Saison. And every time we were left with little bits of the other one selling through to the next season, because people say they do, but they don't. They don't want to buy it. They'll buy one. They're not buying 6 or 7. And so like over time we realized we can make 1, maybe 2 a year, and that's it.
Really?
And a limited amount. Or you make it can conditioned and you make enough that you can sell it through the summer, and that's it. We also have to know our marketplace, which, a lot of times people just leave in the fall and we don't see them again until the spring. So winter is not exactly the sort. We're not putting out a summer Saison and hoping it's going to sell through the winter. It just doesn't work. So there is definitely that. And I pushed for those Saisons for a long time, and finally I've come around to like, they just don't sell. So I don't push them anymore, but I still, I've held on and no way of knowing, because it's now become sort of like one of our standards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say as well that I told the story off the top of last week, but if for anybody watching this who didn't see the video of us breaking down today's Patio Nights, that I had that first Saison that you guys produced there, There's No Way of Knowing, and I drank it for 3 hours and it was smooth. I didn't even realize I had drank it for 3 hours, and it was so enjoyable that when I hear you say people don't like Saisons, I'm like, man, why? Like because for me personally, but again, this is the fun of brewing and tasting and beer drinking, is everybody has their preference. And for me, I like all sorts of stuff, but for me, Saisons have always been very special, and they've always been something that's kind of like close to the heart, which I can tell for you is very much the same.
And it's not that they don't like them, it's just that they don't buy them. They all like so much we hear is like, why don't you do more Saisons? And then we give them some other standard answer, but the answer is, the truth is, it's because no one buys them. And like, we get that a lot where we have a beer that's doing really well, and then sales slow down and they dry up. We're like, okay, we have to move away from that brand. The minute we take it away, hey, where's that going? And they look where it is, and you're like, well, had you have bought it, we would have been able to continue.
But if you I feel like if you tell people that up front, if you just, hey, listen, we got to shut this thing down unless you guys keep buying, they'll keep buying it. But you're so right. It's people don't know what they have until it's gone. And so you take it away, and immediately it's, well, I can't believe you took that away from me. It's like, I'm not trying to take it away from you.
And it is also finding sort of where it fits, and that's where we've come to this. We're not really doing the cores anymore. We're bringing back things and sort of floating these at different seasons and fitting them in. Like, they never really go away. It's like a band from the late 90s. They're just on hiatus. They're going to come back.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what we're doing. And that's what's working right now. Nothing ever really goes away. It's always there. And then we'll bring it back. Like, we know that they're good. We just need to know when to sell them and how to do it better. And this is just the changing marketplace. There's nothing wrong or right about it or wrong. It's just, this is how it is. And, as brewers, we're learning too. So keeps us on our toes and makes things fun, because then we can, bring new things and bring new old things back and sort of flip it. It's not always the same thing over and over again. It's always changing, and that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one that I got for you today, Sam, as I always appreciate your time, is what do you hope people get from Patio Nights? What do you hope the experience is? What do you hope the fit is? When you are brewing this, you have a vision, but now you're tasting it with me here. The warm weather is hitting, and I'm wondering for you how you envision the person who is choosing Patio Nights, whether it be out there at the brewery itself or ordering it in, and how they're enjoying it.
I think you did a pretty good job when you said like those nights that sort of just carry on. And I know many times with my neighbors and my friends, they come over and you're only coming for one, but then, you get to talking and, the beer is just right. And I think that's the idea behind this. Just something fun and relaxing. It's got a lot of flavor, so it keeps you entertained while you're talking, and just those fun, never knowing evenings where it's going to go. And, we all relish those times because we know that soon enough, Old Man Winter is going to come back. So having those extra special nights, whether it's by a campfire, back deck, if it's watching the hockey game, if it's doing whatever, just kind of the carrying on of the evening.
Yeah.
And that's what the patio.
Absolutely. I love it. And I love that you guys base so much of your selections when it comes to brewing choices around experiences. Because there's a lot of places that I think put out beers around, well, let's just make it and see who consumes it. But you guys think about exactly what you want people to feel or to experience or where it's going to be consumed. And I think that that's really unique and really special. So again, it is Patio Nights. If you want to check it out, let people know where they can get this. Sam, I assume sawdustcitybeer.com is the best place to be able to get it online.
Yes, for sure. You can order it online, get it anywhere in the province, or come in to a retail, and it's available there as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Sam, thank you as always, man. It's great to catch up with you.
Thanks, Marshall. Cheers, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too.